In this video, we're going to take a look at the Lower Road rail line from Brunswick to Augusta, Maine. This unused rail line is set to either be restored to operation or removed for a bike trail. An interested rail operator submitted a proposal to operate the line, but at the same time, bills are moving through legislation to remove the tracks. Either outcome is pretty extreme. After all these years, this line has just sat dormant. The Lower Road is a former Maine Central Line, and this section of it runs from Brunswick to Augusta. It was last used in the early 2000s for freight, but the last train, a Maine Eastern excursion, ran in 2008. Since then, it has sat dormant, but has been maintained to some extent by the Maine Department of Transportation. Maine Switching Services, the company taking over the Rockland Branch as the Cumberland Knox Railroad, reportedly submitted a proposal to operate the 33 miles of track from Brunswick to Augusta to supplement their Rockland Branch operation. Cumberland Knox says reactivating the Lower Road recognizes the essential need to support freight and passenger operations on the Rockland Branch. It also better positions CKRR to capture the growing demand for rail tourism, expand on the success of the growing rail cycle industry, and work with business and community partners to develop freight traffic. This here tells us that the CKRR looks to operate a wide variety of rail operations on this trackage. From freight and excursion trains to railbikes, the Lower Road would be able to host them all. In addition to that, there's always the possibility of passenger rail on this track. In recent years, there's been talk about extending Amtrak's Downeaster service up the Lower Road as a route to Augusta and further north. Since then, discussion has shifted to extending Amtrak up the back road instead, but there's always potential to run Amtrak to Augusta, as it is the state's capital. Back to the Cumberland and Knox, I'm told that there are already potential freight customers interested in using the line, so they would be growing freight service there, just like they do on the reactivated Rockland Branch. On the other end of the spectrum, trail advocates want the rails removed for a bike path. These folks have already made progress as the state is pushing bills to remove the tracks, but the money needed to do a project of this size has to be located. It doesn't seem as though Maine has the money at the moment, and it isn't likely the scrapping of the rail would even cover the cost, as some people have suggested. Cumberland and Knox Railroad has been spending some time working with advocates to figure out a solution that fits both of their plans. In this case, a rail with trail solution could be the best of both worlds. It should be noted that the northern end of the line is rail with trail already, and it wouldn't be impossible to extend it further south. By including both rail with trail on the corridor, the freight trains can come back, rail bike and tourist trains could run, and people can enjoy the recreational activities they do along the path. Freight service would give businesses a more lucrative option for shipping product, and rail bikes and tourist trains can bring people and revenue into the towns along the route. It should be noted that despite the push to remove the tracks for a trail, advocates have said publicly the trail is a trail until rail situation. This means the corridor could be reverted back to railroad use if needed, as the trail is just an interim use. There's a couple issues with this. First, removing rails just to put them back down in the future generally doesn't work. While it is a nice thought, it will cost a significant amount of money to remove the tracks, and of course would take even more to put down new tracks in just a few years if needed. A better way to preserve the line for future use is leaving the tracks in place in case an interested operator comes forward to use the line. This brings me into my second point. As I've already said, the Cumberland and Knox is in fact an interested operator who wants to use the line. This could, and hopefully will, derail the rail removal proposals. Derailing the current proposals could result in a rail with trail setup. Back to the potential uses for the rail line, rail bikes could become an extremely popular attraction for Maine, When you visit rail cycling operations in other parts of the Northeast, you'll see that they are some extremely successful operations. Down in Rhode Island, Rail Explorers operates railbike excursions on the Newport Secondary Rail Line in Portsmouth and Middletown. These excursions have become the #1 attraction in Portsmouth, and there are always people riding the excursions. They are practically always sold out or close to it. Over in New York, Revolution Rail has a few different excursions that are spread out along the Adirondack Line. The former Delaware and Hudson Line follows the Hudson River, much like how the lower road hugs the Kennebec, so similar excursions could operate. Tourist trains can also be successful here, like they are in many other places. Successful excursion train companies exist in Conway, New Hampshire, Essex, Connecticut, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and Newport, Rhode Island, to name a few, and similar operations can be done here in Maine. As for conditions of the line, they are pretty good for an unused railroad. Other than a short section of the line used for car storage until last year in Brunswick, there hasn't been train use since 2008. Despite this, the main line is clear of brush and major obstructions thanks to the maintenance crews of the Maine Department of Transportation. Like other Maine DOT lines, they have maintained them for potential future rail use, which is now ironic now because there's a push to remove the rails right when a potential rail operator shows their face. Isn't that what they have been waiting for all this time? Anyways, there is just about perfect track in some places, and you could even run a train on it, some of it tomorrow. This is because a section of the line was actually rebuilt in 2003. Other sections need work, but aren't too far gone. Some of the most scenic portions would be ideal for the previously mentioned rail bikes, and very minimal work would need to be done to the line to start up that kind of operation. In fact, most of the line could host rail bike excursions right now, as lightweight rail vehicles like high rail trucks and speeders have run on these tracks recently. This could mean an almost immediate startup, which could quickly boost tourism in the area around the rail line. Hosting tourist and freight trains would also have more benefits and at the same time require more work like tie replacement, repairing washouts, replacing a removed bridge over a roadway, and plenty of crossing work among other things. None of these are impossible to fix, but would require some effort, time, and of course money. The push to turn a number of Maine's rail lines into rail trails comes at a pivotal time for railroading in the state. Class 1 Railroad, CSX Transportation, completed their purchase of Pan Am Railway just 3 years ago. In the past 3 years, CSX has been focusing on upgrading the infrastructure of the old Pan Am Guilford system to something that actually resembles a railroad. Previously, shipping on Pan Am wasn't always reliable, and it turned shippers away from using rail. With CSX in the picture, they have already rebuilt infrastructure, gotten old customers shipping again, and continue to work on improving infrastructure. Short lines and freight customers can take advantage of CSX's upgrades and build upon their success. Cumberland Knox is now interchanging with them in Brunswick to serve customers on the Rockland Branch. They want to work with them to ship on the lower road, and the Conway Scenic Railroad wants to reopen the Mountain Division and interchange with CSX in Portland. Short lines working with CSX could be pretty successful if done correctly. Just look at the Grafton and Upton Railroad in Massachusetts. While the GNU operates in a different part of the region, it is a shining example of a dead railroad being completely brought back to life and then some. They interchange directly with CSX and have set up multiple transload operations along their line. The Pioneer Valley and Maine Central Railroads are also similar short lines that had to build up traffic on their previously underutilized railroads, and they do interchange with CSX. Cumberland and Knox has the potential to be the next of these successful CSX short line partners if all works out. Meanwhile, trail advocates are pushing to remove potentially useful rail lines instead of restoring them to operation. Now, not every rail line needs to be restored, but there are at least 2 specific situations previously mentioned developing in Maine right now where rail operators want to reactivate tracks, but trails are being pushed. Removing the rails for a trail while there are interested rail operators who want to use the tracks would go against the whole interim use part of these trail projects. With that in mind, there will have to be some discussions and agreements before either the rail or trail moves forward. Hopefully the rail stays and the trail is built alongside, just like the north end of the line. If it can be done there, it can be done anywhere else on the line with the proper planning. In conclusion, time will tell what will happen to the lower road, but if the railroad gets their way, it could be a great thing for the area and the state as a whole. I followed the line from Brunswick to Augusta to film parts for this video, and the full line tour will follow soon. Stay tuned for that video, and be sure to check out the video description for more information and links.